All right, YouTube. A couple of days ago, South Korea's president or prime minister, I'm not exactly sure. Some foreign nations have like prime ministers and stuff. I don't understand the terminology. Over here, we just have a president and a vice president, of course. Got impeached, and now people are in the streets demanding that she be removed from office. So, the first female leader of South Korea is going to be gone. Boo hoo. What misogyny. No, actually, it has to do with some sort of massive, massive corruption scandal that was predicated, oddly enough, on the discovery that she had ties to some sort of cult, actually, over there. A literal cult, as in, like, sort of a guru figure with various followers issuing dictates. This is a continual problem within secular nations. You get an otherwise secular leader within a secular state all of a sudden is a member of some spiritual or religious movement, and it influences the way that they do business. I would like to ask, how is this particularly different, other than maybe it's one strong man instead of some church issuing mandates, from the way that most of the world honestly does business, including atheistic nations, in which you have literal state atheism? You think of some of the commie countries or something like that. We look here at the United States. There has been, over time, for instance, a vast discrepancy in how the fire and brimstone evangelical politicians and the Catholic politicians tend to govern. It breaks down almost at this point, and in the past even more so, along party lines. You have like sort of the Catholic Democrats, then you have the Protestant Republicans, and other groups are sort of in the middle of the two. I don't think that it's a coincidence that some of these marginal religious zones that are more in play tend to be in swing state regions. It's actually funny how big a role religion plays in a country that was, originally composed of people who didn't even particularly like organized religion. Here in the United States, of course, they were believers in the Christian God, but they were deists. They had no time to go to church. They were too busy doing other things. In South Korea, it's very, very funny to see this woman essentially diminutive in her capabilities at this point, because the vast majority of the population, I think her approval is like 10% or some insane amount like that. And when they voted to impeach, a lot of the people voting were from her own party. That's when you know that the gig is really up. It's like Dilma down in Brazil. Of course, a lot of people from her movement tried to shield her. But it didn't work now, did it? She's gone from power. You can say whatever you want about the people that are running the show now down there, but Dilma certainly deserved to be forced out of office. This seems to happen quite often lately, where either through impeachment and removal or through some sort of mass demonstrations, a de facto overthrow, or through elections themselves, old guard sort of mentalities are being exposed for the corrupt assholes they really are, and they're getting forced out. In Park's case, it's, sorry I embezzled billions of dollars and I'm apparently controlled by some god man. In Dilma's case, it was, sorry I embezzled billions of dollars and I'm in league with, all sorts of weird corporate corrupt people who are siphoning off your oil funds. In the case of the United States, it was, sorry I went back on every campaign promise, aka Obama, and Clinton, which is, Obama 2.0, who is also Bush 3.0, who is also Bubba Bill 4.0, and Daddy Bush 5.0. It's like a never-ending stream of neocons and neoliberals. The thing is, Korea, under the party controlled by Park, was essentially controlled by a bunch of neoliberals, globalists. They're going to be out now. They're going to lose a significant amount of steam. So this is happening. It's not just limited to any one part of the world. It's like I've seen European media. They look at like the election over here and they say, all those evil Americans over there, crazy, they've got an evil, ignorant man now as their president. And over here, we look at Europe and we say, we've got the Brexit, we've got Italy and so forth. But no, it's spread to Asia, certainly. We see it in the Philippines and now South Korea as well. There's going to be a burgeoning movement for accountability there. It's happening in Japan. Shinzo Abe claims that everything is just peachy and just fine. The average Japanese person probably understands not really the case. Yeah, high quality of life. Yeah, people have generally a fairly good income as far as judged based on the world at large. But there are still systemic problems there. The thing is, people, I think, fundamentally have gotten tired of being told that because things are okay that they shouldn't bother to try to make them better. I think it's sort of a utopian spirit within mankind, isn't it? All of these cultures, many of them are stable. Some of them are very much first world. The UK is a first world country, at least for now, outside of London, I would say. The US is a first world country. South Korea and Japan, they're first world countries. Italy, for the most part. There are some slums in the southern part of Italy, but northern Italy looks more like Switzerland than anything else. It's got a high, generally, quality of life, relatively high wealth, higher literacy. Things generally are seen as stable, as safe there. But people, in the stagnation that's come in the last half century or so, in many of these parts of the world, they've been tired of hearing from their political elite and their business elite, oh, just shut up and vote the establishment. Because even though things are going well, they want them to go better. People have a natural tendency towards wanting an advancement for their tribe or for their family or for themselves as individuals. It's been denied them for a long time, for more than a generation in many cases across these nations. There's been very little advancement. In fact, there's backsliding in some areas. Here in the United States, the average wage is lower than it was 10 years ago. It's backsliding. People got tired of being told that, oh, well, we're free enough, we're wealthy enough, we're safe enough, we're powerful enough. No, we want to be more safe, more wealthy, more powerful. It's a natural inclination of mankind. That's what people got. People get tired of looking at some country where the growth rate's in the double digits. They look here at the mediocre growth we have, and the political elite celebrates like it's some sort of great thing. It's not. It's not even normal. It makes no sense. The wealth isn't coming to us. We have right now the neoliberals like the Clintons rambling about how Trump's going to bring trickle down and it's voodoo economics. It's like being back in the late 80s or something again, honestly. And at the same time, all of the growth that they've heralded and crowed about has not trickled down either. People either are still out of work or they have some low-wage job that replaced the middle income job that they used to have. They used to make $50K a year in a factory. Now they make $15K a year working double shift at Wendy's. That's not improving the economy. It's not bringing more stability. It's not making people wealthy. It's simply turning them into overworked wage slaves, and they feel that they deserve more because they used to have more. And in many of these countries, it's the same way. You look at the Philippines. It's not like they don't have resources. It's not like they don't have industry there. It's that their government for so long, before the nationalists under Duterte took power, their government was more focused on, general warm, fuzzy feelings. Let's not rock the boat too much. Just ignore those militant groups, ignore the cartels, ignore the fact that Westerners come here to hire prostitutes. It's all good. Things are well enough as they are in the urban areas of the country. We see this tired old crazy line used not just here in the West or in the industrial world. We see it also in the third world or in marginally industrialized nations. We see it used by Eastern European politicians in areas where there's still plenty of room for industrial growth, let's face it, or the Philippines or Thailand or something like that, where things are developing, but they're not, they're not at Tokyo standards or something like that. We get tired of being told that things are as good as they can possibly be so we can shut up, while the top people, the top politicians and bankers keep siphoning off all the wealth. Where do you think they get the money to fund all these political campaigns? What they do, here's how it operates. Corporations and banks and so forth. They pour money into politics. Politicians that they've poured money into, they take hold. They pass laws and regulations and stuff to snuff out their competition, to keep people at low wages, to keep prices higher and so forth, to make the economy overall supposedly more competitive, which isn't actually what they're doing. Any sane individual would know that's not the case. A lot of these people have been, even people near the top in some cases, have been fooled. They honestly think that they're doing the right thing on a macroeconomic level. They're not. They're actually strangulating their own economies sometimes without even realizing it. I will point out one thing here. When people talk about, Krugman says, or this other economist, or so-called Noam Chomsky says, these people are espousing opinions. They're not espousing facts. When you talk about economics, there are different economic schools for a reason. It's because there is no one way to do economics. There's no one singular way to do this thing. Most of it's theory. It's artificial human systems that have been compiled over time. It's opinion. It's subjective. It's not some absolute best, most efficient system. If we were operating under the objectively best, most efficient system, we wouldn't really have a national economy in the sense that we have now, because it would be relegated to individuals and voluntary groups. The problem being, of course, that comes with its own difficulties. No, when I look at South Korea, it's just another bellwether that shows that the political change and the social change currently happening in the world, which is predicated upon the information transfer of the internet, honestly, allowing news to get out, allowing it to be analyzed by people who are not controlled by the same groups that control your political parties. It's allowed to spread from country to country. For instance, here in the United States with Trump probably would not have actually won if it hadn't been for a bunch of people. I'm not talking about Russian agents. I'm talking about organic individuals online who helped to buffer the numbers of Trump supporters that were online and push the agenda of, yes, Trump is the better candidate. The Brexit probably would have failed if it weren't for people outside of the UK trying to convince people online largely by the hundreds of thousands that they should vote in favor of it. The internet is a powerful thing. There's a reason why every country's establishment politicians want to regulate it more. They want to tax it. They want to crush as much freedom of speech and expression on it as possible. On the net neutrality argument that several people have asked me about, it doesn't really matter. The government's going to misuse net neutrality or the absence thereof. Either way, it's going to be misused by their corporate buddies for their benefit, for the fiscal benefit of the corporation, the ISPs, and the political benefit of the establishment parties. It almost doesn't matter which system you use. Both proposals, the way they've been put forth, are corrupt. They're stupid. We need a new proposal. You don't have to choose between the two approaches that they've already offered you. As far as Park goes, she's out. Whether the courts, remove her or not doesn't really matter. When your approval is hovering around 10%, it's probably a non-issue at that point. What are you supposed to do? Most of your parties abandoned you. You're just going to sit there until the next election and do absolutely nothing but twiddle your thumbs. Meanwhile, you've got, a lesser nuclear state to your north that really wants to take any possible advantage of the situation to hammer, your capital with artillery or something like that. Now, I think that even the other Western countries will put pressure on her at some point. So yeah, it's good. It's good for South Korea. It's good for Asia in general. It's good for the world in general. We need to get rid of more of these establishment politicians. We need to grind the legacy media to dust and replace it entirely. It's obviously not functioning the way it was supposed to. What free people still exist in this world? People in Iceland, maybe the Swiss, something like that. That's them and people who live on the fringes of civilization itself and literally live in a jungle somewhere, literally building wooden spears and not even being horticulturalists. The Yanomami or something, or the Maasai people of Tanzania or something like that. They've got more freedom at this point than people in supposedly enlightened, industrialized nations in many ways. It's a very sad statement on humanity because supposedly these people are primitive and don't have any common sense. And they don't need all of these strictures regulating what they do. And yet here the government needs 10,000 volumes of laws for people that are largely literate, largely well-educated, largely I say, there are some exceptions of course, language arts aside, and who supposedly are forthright and honest and have good qualities. The same government that tells us, oh yeah, Americans are wonderful, Americans are great, doesn't even trust Americans to mind their own business for the most part. In most of their day-to-day transactions, it involves regulations seen or unseen. You go to work, a whole bunch of regulations on your workplace. You get done with work, you go shopping. Everything you buy, it's taxed, it's regulated, it's overseen by bureau after bureau. You go home, your home is up to a bunch of building codes. Your property is managed by the government. You have to pay the government rent to even be on that property. You go to sleep at night. Hopefully, you've hooked yourself up to your thought control device so you don't have any forbidden dreams. You dream of something illegal, get dragged off to jail. You wake up, you rinse and repeat. And then on the weekends, because you're tired from the bone-crushing work that you do, or the soul-crushing work as it may be. You go and you get drunk probably most of the time, or you get high or something like that. All that stuff's regulated too. You have to show a form of ID. You have to be a certain age to obtain this stuff. It has to be made up to government standards. The government gets to confirm or deny the license for the vineyard, for the the beer patch over there that's supplying the grains for the ale that you're drinking or whatever. And it's awful, honestly. It's not the way the United States certainly was meant to operate. It's not. You look back at the Federalist Papers sort of days, it's almost the exact opposite. Really, we've become like European tyranny, unfortunately. South Korea, they'll force out their leader, which is good. It's good for them. Maybe if we force all of these idiots out, then we could finally go back to some semblance of peace and prosperity on this planet. Because really, it's them, it's the political class holding us back from that to begin with. That's about all. Peace out.